Hello, welcome back. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we're going to be trying out the new DIOR Forever Glow Star Filter and the Forever Glow Maximizer. So I picked up one shade of each and we're going to try them both out today. So the DIOR Forever Glow Star Filter, I do think this is supposed to be DIOR's version of the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter. So one of many alternatives on the market. So this is the DIOR Forever Glow Star Filter. This is a liquid highlighting concentrate and complexion enhancing fluid. This is for multi-use. This can be used 3 different ways. This can be worn on bare skin to bring out a natural glow, before or mixed with the DIOR Forever Skin Glow Foundation to boost radiance, or applied in touches after foundation to highlight certain areas of the face. So much like the Charlotte Tilbury. This is also supposed to be a skincare makeup hybrid formula that will deliver 24 hours of hydration, and this is available in 10 shades. This does retail for $55 US or 70 Canadian. So she's not cheap. This is also made in France and has a 12-month shelf life. This is what the inner packaging looks like. This is very, very beautiful, very heavy. I would say the packaging is much more luxe than even the Charlotte Tilbury. And this is in comparison to the Forever Glow Foundation. I did pick up the shade 0, so the absolute lightest one that they have. And the other product I picked up is the DIOR Forever Glow Maximizer. So they're really pushing that this is available with limited availability. So this is a liquid highlighter that is multi-use and can be used as a highlighter, blush, bronzer, or eyeshadow. Brightens and enhances the complexion with an instant and long-lasting glow. So this is only available in 6 different shades, and again in limited quantities. This retails for $45 US or 54 Canadian. So you have to really want this to pick this up. This is what this one looks like on the inside. I did pick up the shade Pink. So I should mention this one is also made in France with a 12-month shelf life. I was thinking of picking up the very lightest shade, but I thought this one might actually be really nice. I've really been enjoying a more pinky toned highlight as of late because I feel like it just ties into the blush so beautifully. So I thought we would try this out today as well. When it comes to the Star Filter, this is beautiful. Again, the packaging is very luxurious and it does come in a pump, which I love, especially as opposed to the doe foot of a lot of other similar products. So I have actually worn this a couple of times. I wore this under a regular foundation, and I also did try it yesterday mixed with the DIOR Forever Skin Glow. So I've never really been a fan of the Forever Skin Glow foundation. There's just something about the way that it sat on my skin. But I think the main issue is that I have the shade 1N, which is not my shade. It's too deep for me. Mixing it with the Star Filter made it lighter, easier to work with, and it looked so nice on the skin. So I'm definitely going to be mixing these together in the future. I loved the way that looked. And it's not up yet, but in my speed reviews video, that is what is on my base. It's a mix of these two. But today, I kind of wanted to focus more on a comparison between this and the Charlotte Tilbury because I do want to show you the main differences. So this one was obviously the OG original product, and every brand after has really just been trying to create their own version. And so this one being a little more pricey than I think the original, I just want to show them side by side. I do have the e.l.f. that I can swatch in comparison as well. So I am just going to quickly pin my hair back. So I think on one side of my face, I'm going to use the Star Filter, and the other side I'm going to use the Flawless Filter from Charlotte Tilbury, so you can see what each side looks like. And then I will apply a more typically matte foundation, which is the House Labs, is the one I've pulled. So you can see the effect it has on that type of foundation and the difference in the two sides. Before we get into that, I do want to quickly show you some swatches. So I have the DIOR, the Charlotte Tilbury, and the e.l.f. And I have them all in the very lightest shade. You can see here I have the Charlotte Tilbury, I have the e.l.f., and then the DIOR. So the lightest shade of the DIOR is definitely lighter than any of the others, followed by the Charlotte Tilbury. The e.l.f. in this way is looking a little bit orange, which I find interesting. I will tell you the e.l.f. is incredibly glowy. I would say even a little bit more so than the Charlotte Tilbury, but we're not actually going to be trying this one on. I just wanted to mention it because I do have it. Let's start with the Star Filter. Again, loving the packaging, loving a pump, and it does say you can apply with your fingers. You can also apply with a brush. So I have been doing this with my fingers, so I will just show you that way. And this actually has a little bit more color to it than I even expected. And when I mixed it yesterday with the Skin Glow foundation, it made that foundation a much better shade match for me, which I appreciated. I am going to try doing a little bit of blending with a brush because I just kind of want to see the difference. That's the one thing I haven't done yet. So it does give a bit of a softer radiance, it looks like, when you blend it with a brush, but it still looks really nice. So you can see this side is with the Star Filter, this is with nothing. On the other side, I'm going to take the Charlotte Tilbury Flawless Filter. I am really low on this one. And you can see the way the DIOR just kind of settles into the skin. It just really does make the skin look so smooth and perfected. The shade is also definitely better for me than the Charlotte Tilbury. The DIOR does feel a little bit more hydrating. It feels much more like a skincare product on my skin. The Charlotte Tilbury side feels a little bit more wet, whereas the DIOR, it kind of sinks right into the skin like your moisturizer would. So I find that really interesting. I think that feels really, really nice on the skin. And you can see the Charlotte Tilbury also gave a bit more of a tint. I don't know if it's overly obvious on camera, but the Charlotte Tilbury side definitely did give a little bit more of a tint. So let's go into the foundation just so I can show you what the foundation looks like over top. So I am going in with my trusty Haus Labs and just using my BK Beauty 101 to apply. Ooh, that applies super nice over top of the DIOR. So like I mentioned, I wore this with the Skin Glow and I love the way it made my skin look, and I love the way it lightened that foundation. It was still very glowy, but it just looked really, really pretty overall. It does seem to give the Haus Labs foundation a little bit more of a radiance, but it's also giving it a really smooth canvas to blend over. Not like if I were to have put a silicone primer on my skin, but it really does seem to be giving a really nice, smooth base. It just feels a little bit silkier than usual. And I'm not compromising on the coverage. So this side is with the DIOR and the Haus Labs foundation. I think that looks really, really nice. I'm really happy with that. So going in on the other side, so over top of the Charlotte Tilbury, it seems to be blending equally nice. I don't think the Charlotte Tilbury is as smoothing. I do love the Charlotte Tilbury product. Please don't get me wrong. I do love it, but I don't think it's as smoothing to the skin as maybe the DIOR. I just feel like my texture is a little bit more enhanced on this side. Okay, so that is both sides done, and honestly, they look so similar to me. Like I said, the DIOR kind of sunk into the skin a lot more than the Charlotte Tilbury, and it definitely felt a little tiny bit more smoothing. The Charlotte Tilbury, however, also blended out very well, gave a little bit more coverage, but also looks really, really nice. Both sides, I think, look equally glowy. Like, I think if I asked someone if I was wearing two different glowy bases, would they notice? I don't know that someone would notice. So I think it does look really, really nice. I think if anything, I would say the Charlotte Tilbury side looks the tiniest bit glowier, but that would really be the only difference. Otherwise, I'm really loving how my base is looking. Getting into the Glow Maximizer. So I did pick up the shade Pink, and it does come in this really cute little doe foot. It's really, really nice. It looks kind of fluffy. Let me show you a quick swatch. It does look very, very pink to me. But I think what I'm gonna do is put a couple of dots on my cheek, and then I guess I'll blend it out with my finger. Okay, so in the initial swatch, I thought that was incredibly pigmented, but blending it out, it's not really. I was actually thinking this could be more of a blush base, but there's really not as much pigment to it as I suspected. Okay, I think that looks pretty. I think it will be a really nice tie into the blush, but yeah, it's really not that pigmented. Okay, going into the other side, there is a bit of a metallic shift to it, but it's not overly pronounced. It does look really, really pretty though. Okay, I'm going to pop off camera. I'll finish up the rest of my makeup and I will be back to share my final thoughts. Okay, so here is the final look, and I did end up going in and just powdering sort of my T-zone area. And after doing so, I feel like the Dior side looks still more hydrated and it feels more hydrated. Where I've kind of gone in and set right over here, it looks dry, whereas over here, I can barely tell that I've powdered, but I think it looks really nice. So I do kind of like the Dior a little bit better than the Charlotte Tilbury. I still think the Charlotte Tilbury is a great product, but when I run out of this, which I am very close to doing, I would not repurchase it. I do have the e.l.f. that I would still like to get a lot more use out of, but at the very end of the day, I like this one more, so I would probably just grab this. I'm really, really loving how the Dior looks and feels hydrating to my skin. I think if you have dry skin, the Dior Star Filter is wonderful. I still think the Charlotte Tilbury is great, but I just think the Dior has a little bit more hydrating properties to it. If you are on the dry side like me, and you might notice those things, just like even with the powder, how it looks drier on this side than this side, how the Dior just kind of sunk right into the skin as a moisturizer would. I found that really, really interesting. In terms of glow, I think they look very, very similar. I don't think you could really tell the difference between the two sides. So do I think you absolutely have to run out and get the Dior? It depends on what your collection looks like. First of all, this is a very steep price point, so I don't think anybody needs this. I think if you're on the fence, but you already have the Charlotte Tilbury, you already have the e.l.f., then I would definitely skip this. You don't need this. You can easily just prep your face with a moisturizer and then use the Charlotte Tilbury or the e.l.f. And I think you'll get a very similar effect. I do like that this has that together. I like that this pairs beautifully with the Skin Glow foundation, because it did make me like that foundation so much more, which makes me happy because that was not a cheap foundation and now I'm actually going to get a lot more use out of it. So that does make me happy. This definitely has and will continue to serve a part of my collection. So I'm very happy that I do have this. If you already have the Charlotte Tilbury or the e.l.f., this is one of those types of products where if you have one, you have them all. You don't need to keep buying all the different alternatives. That being said, I'm just happy that I have the Dior because I love how it feels on my dry skin. In terms of glow, it's very, very similar. If you're just looking for that really glowy base, it does not matter which one you grab. Again, if you have one, you have them all, but I really, really like this one as opposed to the others, just because I do have really dry skin. In terms of the Glow Maximizer, this is one I could have probably skipped. First of all, it is only limited quantities. I think it's really pretty, but I just don't think it's a necessity. I do see a little bit of that glow. I did, of course, add a powder blush, but there is a little bit of a glow right there, and I do think it looks really, really nice, but I don't know that it's something I'm going to use as often as I might use the Star Filter. I'm going to leave it out, of course. I'm going to keep testing it and playing with it so I can give you my thoughts at the end of March, but I just don't know that this one was necessary, and I almost didn't get this one. I don't really know why I ended up going with it. This I was always going to get. This one, I probably should have gone with my gut and just skipped it. I think it's pretty. I just don't think it's necessary. If you're somebody who does really enjoy a liquid highlight, then you might really enjoy this, especially because they do have that range of shades. But on swatch, this looked very pigmented. On the face, it really didn't. So it really doesn't have as much pigment as it looks to. I think it's pretty. I just don't think this one is a need. I think if you're debating between the two, I think this one would be a better option. But again, if you have the Charlotte Tilbury or the e.l.f., it's absolutely not necessary. I do love the packaging on both of these. They are very, very much luxury packaging. I do recommend ordering from the Dior site if that's an option for you, because it is such a luxurious experience when you get that package. I did upload a full short of unboxing my package, the way the samples came in this cute little pouch, the way everything was just wrapped so beautifully. And I was giggling because I was thinking, when you order from Sephora, you get the Sephora box and you open it up and there's a piece of crumpled up brown paper just thrown on top and the products are just casually floating throughout the box. Whereas with DIOR, you really get that experience. You should. You pay enough for their products, but it's just really nice to have that little experience. So overall, I love the star filter. I can't wait to keep playing with it. The maximizer I will of course keep playing with as well, but I think this is the one I probably could have skipped if any. I love the way that my skin looks today. It just feels really good and glowy and hydrated, especially on the side with the star filter. So I'm loving that, and I'm really happy that I have these in my collection. Let me know if you're debating on these. Maybe if you have any questions I didn't quite get to, let me know. I love hearing from you guys so much. If you're new here, I hope you'll consider subscribing before you go. I do upload new videos every single week. Thank you again so very much for watching, and I will see you in my next one. Bye!